Hello everyone and welcome to Corey's Sports Corner. This is the first official video of the channel. We're going to start with the XFL, their week one. They just kicked off this weekend. It was a very fun weekend of football, and I am joined
listen,
here.
Corey, I think you're too excited. You're getting on explaining who I am right there. I know you want to talk about your Seattle Dragons right there, but you can't forget about your co-host.
So my co-host for this episode will be my good friend Chris, a fellow football fan. Why don't you introduce yourself, Chris?
Hey everyone, I'm Chris. I'll let you know, just to know that I'm not some kind of poser right here. You know what the XFL stands for? Guess what? Nothing. It doesn't stand for anything because the Extreme Football League was already taken, like late '90s. So there you go, little fun trivia when you're shooting back drinks with your buddies.
So it doesn't mean Extreme Football League like it did last time?
It doesn't mean Extreme Football League.
It just means nothing.
It means nothing. Yes.
That's beautiful.
It literally doesn't mean anything.
That's
Vince
beautiful.
McMahon is a fucking mad genius.
That's beautiful. So, all right, well, we're going to jump on into this then. So, we had a good weekend of football. There were 4 games, obviously, because there's only 8 teams in this league as of right now. The first game of the weekend was the home team, the DC Defenders, led by former Buckeye Cardale Jones, and the team I picked to follow, the Seattle Dragons.
You poor bastard. Let's just get that out of the way. You poor bastard.
It didn't start well. Well, that's not fair. That's not a fair assessment because I think for the majority of the game, I think Seattle actually did hold their own against DC. I think DC just has too much.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
So there was some interesting numbers that came out of this game. I thought Farrow had a decent game rushing the ball. Yep, he didn't get into the end zone, but he did get a nice 19-yard run.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did. He had 7 attempts, 41 yards.
And then there was the quarterback Silvers for the Dragons. He definitely could have played better, I will say.
I mean, I guess Brandon Silvers. I mean, he's kind of an interesting guy in this lineup here. Especially so many QBs out there. I mean, obviously Cardale Jones is probably one of the more maybe predominant players because he actually saw some play time in the NFL this last year. But we have QBs with actually some pretty solid talent. I was kind of really looking forward to Brandon Silvers and Cardale Jones and kind of seeing who was coming up on top. And I mean, overall, actually a lot better than I expected, especially how the way the AAF went last year.
Yeah, this definitely went off a lot better, I feel.
Oh my god.
The entertainment value is way higher.
There's, we'll talk about the games too, but really quick, there's these games were so dynamic. They took everything we kind of wanted with the NFL and kind of just took it to that next step. I mean, they're literally talking to a coach in between plays. Like, they're switching the lines.
Yeah,
like,
coaches, players.
That last drive and getting players' input, which I think is so cool. Literally, the moment it happened, and they're walking off.
They got
the
a
field,
microphone in their face.
They got a mic. And they're like in the heat of the moment. I absolutely love it. It was so much better than just kind of sitting at the sidelines, just kind of watching. And it's like, okay, this is kind of, not really top tier football. It's decent football, but then you kind of had too much of that dissociation. I think this right here was a very good meshing of entertainment and sports, and I really, really loved it.
And that's what I was really hoping for with the XFL because it takes a lot of that crowd excitement that you get from like WWE, and it puts it into a football atmosphere, which is super cool. Like if there's a penalty against the home team, the whole crowd just starts booing automatically. Or there
was plenty of booing going on.
Yeah,
this weekend, that's for sure.
But let's get back to the games. Brandon Silver I think had a decent game. He got 3 touchdowns, but those 2 interceptions were killers for them.
Yeah, this is such a dynamic game now, so much more fast-paced. So you really want to get scoring opportunities, and if you start turning over the ball, which more often than not, kind of through the games I've seen, some guys were having a little trouble with kind of 3 and outs, or not really getting too many points on the board. You really need to stop swinging it in the other direction. But I think for Silvers, I think he did an admirable job.
Just hopefully something that he can clear up before next week's game against Tampa Bay, but we'll get to that in a second. Rushing the ball for DC, they didn't really show a ton of rushing. Definitely from the running back position, as Presley, his numbers can be deceiving. So let's not lean too heavy on them. But 12 rushes, 31 yards, long of 14. Not bad, not great considering the way football is these days. Cardell Jones though had 28 yards.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised by that. He, especially going out of Ohio State and kind of going to the Redskins, he's a little more of that option player. He's not maybe as explosive as some of those other players are, but to kind of see him put up some yards from clutch plays that he needed, I thought he did an okay job.
Yeah, and he wound up getting 2 touchdowns through the air on a 16 for 26 for 235 yards. That's a good game.
That's a very good game, especially with him playing for Redskins and kind of seeing some of his stats right there. I think with here he's setting himself up solid. He had very different expectations going into the NFL, and I think this kind of fits him right now to kind of develop as a player.
Yeah, and that's all this league is really going to be. The final score wound up being 31-19 in favor of DC. Seattle they hung in there, but just right at the end,
yeah.
It all kind of fell apart, and that's really something we saw with a lot of these games. Well, with a chunk of these games, I will say one of the games we'll talk about in a bit.
One of them, maybe not so much.
Yeah, not quite so much. But I think that was a great first game that they could have had. That I don't think they could have asked for much better.
I agree. There was a couple things that I was anticipating in this first game. I think the first and foremost was looking at the stands and seeing how many people were going to come to this game. I mean, perception is reality, and when you're going into this brand spanking new league and you see 75-80% of those seats empty, you kind of gives a bad
like with the AAF last year with Arizona, I think they were playing in like a 70,000 seat stadium with only 7,000 people. Yeah, that's not gonna cut it.
Yeah, because this might not be the best thing.
But they had San Antonio last year, and the first game they had like 35,000 people, and we were like, holy shit! And then you got to the rest of the league, and I was like, oh, right.
But I would say consistently with these 4 games over the weekend, though, I think there was actually a very good attendance. I was very, very impressed. It kind of goes, your first week is really your first impression. I mean, it really is. So I think they picked a lot of good venues. One of those ones was like they did a football club there too. So you're talking 20,000 seats, 30,000.
Yeah,
seats.
the DC stadium,
where
because they were playing at DC United Stadium, and they it's like a 30,000 ish, maybe a little less.
And guess what? It was pretty darn full right there. I mean, there was obviously some open spots, kind of mid bowl right there, but I mean, I was really impressed.
Yeah, they looked good.
And it was good to see people out there, rooting for their team. Like, all DC fans, they were dressed in red. They were excited.
Yeah.
They had a beer in their hand, but they were decked out with all DC stuff, and it was kind of like being in an NFL game, in all intents and purposes. It had that energy, and that's what they really needed. I think so many people were going into this kind of going, well, is this going to be another flop? Are we only going to make it maybe 2-3 weeks, and then that's
right?
But I was impressed.
So from here, we're going to move on to the second game. Now we've got our little spiels out of the way. The second game on Saturday was the Los Angeles Wildcats, which is by far the worst name in the league.
So bad. The logo is kind of cool, but it's pretty bad.
The Wildcats, come on, you're begging for someone to turn you into a High School Musical gif.
Well, it makes sense. Zac Efron's going to probably play the lead right there. So there you go.
So the Wildcats were never really truly in this game, I think.
Yeah, I think it's a fair assessment. They couldn't seem to progress the ball. I mean, they did have a interception or a couple interceptions, but yeah, they couldn't seem to keep up with Houston.
So I have the stats again right in front of me on my phone, and we've got their running back didn't do too bad. 12 rushes, 43 yards, a long of 13, not bad. Hood he did pretty decently. I forget how to say the quarterback's name. Canoff,
yeah.
21 of 40, one touchdown, 1 interception, 214 yards. Not a bad performance, but it just really ultimately wasn't enough. Their offense just wasn't going to cut it, I think.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Houston just rolled them. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean they, it was relatively close, like heading into the fourth quarter, but once, towards the end, they just took it away from them. But you had Butler from Houston. He had 9 rushes for 30 yards. His longest was only 7, but he did get a touchdown.
Yep.
It's not. I guess it's not like the amount you rush. It's what you do with those rushes. But he got a touchdown.
Yeah. I mean, it's putting points on the board right there. I would say, especially in this game. Well, even on Saturday, there really wasn't too many huge plays that we kind of see in the NFL. There was no really 35-yard bomb or just kind of going on a tearaway. I mean, apart from
a play here or there.
From Phillips. Phillips had I think a 50-yarder and a touchdown. So
yeah, he got a 50-yard catch.
Yeah. So there was a couple of them. I would say they were kind of few and far between. Especially this game, everyone's kind of taking some little chip shots. Couple 2-3 yard runs wherever here. So just a different style of play that maybe we would see in the NFL.
Yeah, and Walker had a fantastic game at quarterback.
Oh yeah, dude. Yep.
I mean, the stats here: 23 of 39. His longest pass was for 50 yards, as we said earlier, but he had 4 touchdowns and a pick, and that pick didn't come until the fourth quarter.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it was solid.
It's a great game.
It was a great game. I think if you want to kind of establish yourself as kind of being the predominant player or the predominant team for that matter,
mm-hmm.
I think they did excellent right there. I mean, granted, it's LA. I don't think a lot of people kind of had too many expectations with them, but I mean,
but again, it's so hard to make that judgment call.
Because we have no idea. We have nothing to base off of. We have so many players. I mean, a good example was we didn't talk about Nelson Spruce with the LA Wildcats.
Yeah.
I mean, this dude was signed with like 3 or 4 NFL teams, in the last few years, and now he's kind of actually getting a chance to play. So there's a lot of these guys out here. There's a lot of guys that have been exposed to the NFL and just kind of found themselves here at the wayside of the XFL, but are very, very talented. Yeah, I'm really interested to see who's going to start to kind of shine out here.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that was you talk about the crowds. Houston playing in a 60,000 seat stadium. I think they had 25-ish, somewhere around that range.
Yeah.
Which that's not bad. That's not bad at all. I mean, like I said, compare it last year to San Antonio, who had 35,000 people for their opener, and they maintained that through the very short life of the AAF. But Houston is just football crazy enough. I think they could pull this off.
Yeah, I mean, Texas and their football. I mean, they go nuts for it. They can't get enough.
I was a little underwhelmed at Dallas's attendance, but we'll get to them because they were the final game. But we'll get to them in a sec.
Right.
Like I said, Houston, their defense was really good. Their offense was outstanding in this home opener. I mean, that was an impressive debut from this team. And I think that they could be tough to beat. But moving forward, another team I think could be tough to beat, the home team, the New York Guardians.
Woo, baby.
This was the first game of Sunday. That was an outstanding defensive performance from New York. So the New York Guardians win this game 23-3. Decent crowd at MetLife Stadium. I wouldn't say it was anything special. It was probably like 18,000-ish.
Yeah, that's probably about right.
Lots of empty seats in the lower bowl, but it's New York, New Jersey. They don't have time for something that's an unproven commodity. It's just kind of like LA, and I think that's depending on how the Wildcats go, we'll see how long they last, but
yeah, I think we're looking at maybe like our bottom 2 right now, kind of somewhere to be improved upon.
Starting with the Vipers, you had Smith rushing the ball, 16 carries for 79 yards.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a solid game. There's something to build upon there.
Yeah, you're talking almost 5 yards average right there. I mean, I think he didn't wow people. I mean, he had a I think a 12-yarder out there, so he kind of chipped away, and that's kind of what I noticed with Tampa Bay is they were doing an excellent job of kind of progressing the ball. But man, when they got into that red zone,
they just couldn't do anything.
They could do absolutely nothing.
And maybe that's just the defense of the Guardians just stepping up, and that could be why. Maybe the Guardians' defense is just really that good. But
I think so. Just watching them. I mean, obviously, being a red zone player, I mean, it has a lot to do with how the offense can play in those smaller distances. But it was unanimously, basically throughout the entire game, the Guardians were just they had Tampa Bay's number. I mean, stopping some very big plays. Looking at these numbers right here, I mean, obviously there was a couple big ones. There could have been way more that Tampa Bay could have done if Guardians didn't have their A game out there and kind of stop some of those big ones.
And also, just Murray making as many mistakes at the quarterback position they did. He had no touchdowns in this game. He got 2 picks, 16 of 34. Now, granted, 231 yards is pretty good, but those turnovers were brutal.
He was under 50% for his completion percentage too.
Yeah.
I mean, we're looking at, he was, I think it was with the Kansas City Chiefs, I think.
Maybe.
I think that sounds right.
What was it, Aaron Murray?
Yeah, Aaron Murray. Yeah, Kansas City. So he was with them, and you're kind of expecting. Granted, this has nothing to do with them obviously winning the Super Bowl, but you would think he would kind of develop right here, and he looked okay, but I think the biggest struggle that I had with him was he was too front, too open with the plays that he was going, and the defense just could stop at every.
Yeah, they were reading him at every turn.
He was like a freaking neon sign out there. I mean, they knew exactly what he was going to do. Now, 50% completion. I mean, we can obviously see, his receivers kind of had some big plays. So he was kind of throwing some long bombs out there. Just what I've seen. He did try to make an attempt at some longer ones out there. But
one receiver had 42-yard completion. Another had a 44. Another had a 27. Another had a 19.
Yep. So like I said, they did an excellent job of kind of progressing the ball. Some obvious big plays right there, but man, when push came to shove, New York just could stop them at every point. So that was really exciting to see. The first half got a little bit, the first half was just kind of a very, okay, taking some chip shots. Tampa Bay's, third down, they managed to get a first down, and then they just couldn't
go anywhere from there.
And it just kind of was like rinse and repeat for them. So it was. If you're more of a defensive kind of viewer, I think you would really enjoy it. But I mean, the XFL, the way that it's designed, it's all about scoring big. It's faster pace, more opportunities for touchdowns. That's what people want to see, and that's who the demographic is.
Yeah, and through the first 2 games, you really saw that go into effect. But these second 2, I've got to say, I really didn't see it. It was it's like a whole different league we were watching. Moving on to the Guardians, we had Victor, 9 carries, 32 yards, long of 22. He wasn't particularly impressive to me, but he did have that one really good run. And maybe that's just opening day jitters getting to him, but he could have done better. I think that one big run really did help open up the offense a little bit.
Yeah.
But then you had Matt McGloin. Matt McGloin? Yes. I don't know why I'm struggling to remember these guys' first names. But 15 of 20. No one
cares because guess what? They weren't in the NFL long enough for people to really
give a shit. So McGloin went 15 of 29, 182 yards. Not particularly great. He had a touchdown. Most of what really drove this team was defense.
Oh, by far.
Yeah.
By far. I mean, you're talking the 2 interceptions that they were able to score on. They scored on one of them.
Mm-hmm.
It completely changed the tide of the game. Yeah.
Yeah, it completely took over the flow of the game, and like from there, I think Tampa Bay's confidence was just shot. I mean, they were 17-0 in the first half before Tampa Bay kicked that field goal at the end to just get on the board, but that's all they could muster. And I think that's really all they were going to muster.
What made me laugh so hard was I think it was Murray's second. It was either his first or his second pick, and he gets off, and there is immediately a mic in his face.
Yeah.
but he had nothing but positive things to say, and that's what really kind of showed in this game here too. He just a lot of positivity, very, very good understanding. It's like, hey, this is really the first time that we're all kind of playing together right here, so we need to kind of figure out, what our strengths and weaknesses are, and just kind of go from there. So I think
and as a Seattle fan, that's why I'm not harping too much on how the first game went. But I think as if you like Tampa Bay, you might want to be a little concerned with this offense. Hopefully, in this week, they're going to be able to go to practice and get everything worked out. I mean, they're making $27,000 for a total of 14 weeks of.
Oh, dude, the championship's April 20-something. Yeah, it's nothing. It's funny. We were all we literally joked about that earlier today. It was like, okay, these guys are gonna pay $20,000-$30,000 for 3 months.
That ain't bad.
So that's not terrible. It's not NFL numbers, but it's not terrible. So
it's certainly not NFL numbers. You sit on the practice squad for
$500,000.
Yeah, ridiculous. But I think New York is a very impressive team. I think they're going to be someone to be reckoned with in the East.
I think so.
Final game of the weekend. Oh, phone, cooperate. Thank you.
Here we go, baby. St. Louis Battlehawks and Dallas Renegades. Let me just get this out of the way. We are ready to engage because St. Louis Battlehawks, my team, baby. Woo!
I'm rolling my eyes so hard.
The best. They got the best uniforms in the league. They have the best
team
motto in the league. They've got these guys got everything. I mean, they were Class C with 2 S's or 8 S's, whatever.
So, offensively, you have to admit this was probably the most lackluster game out of the bunch.
So fucking. It was. I was getting about halftime, and I'm going, I might immediately regret this decision as a St. Louis Battlehawks fan, because it was.
I mean,
so
Dallas.
Defense heavy.
So St. Louis, St. Louis wins 15-9. 15-9. I mean.
Hold on, you would think that it means, wow, that's a very strong defensive game. No, it's because St. Louis kept getting penalties, and every time they get a first down, or at least cut that distance to get a first down, it immediately goes back. It was like watching the Cleveland Browns. It was disgusting.
Oh, it was absolutely just a gross, disgusting game. Dallas kicked 3 field goals in this game. Their offense was atrocious. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry. I know this is supposed to be a league that's supposed to feed into the NFL potentially, but Dallas did not have anything going on offense. Mm-hmm. But let's start with St. Louis since they were the away team. Jones had a really good day on the ground. Mm-hmm. 85 yards rushing, 21 attempts, averaged 4 yards a carry, had a long of 15. That was pretty good. How do you say the quarterback's name?
I think it's Tamu.
He even rushed for 77 yards on the ground. The quarterback.
That 37-yard run
was nuts.
Unbelievable. It was like Lamar Jackson. He took off, had a little pocket, took off, and it was like no one was around there. I'm going, oh my god. But the problem was, that was late third quarter or something like that. It was well into the second half. And, they needed something going on, because I think it was what, 9-9 going into half the first half. So it was
6 of 6.
Or 6 of 6. Thank you. It was not really.
It was not impressive.
I mean, the over/under was 50-some.
Yeah, it was 52 points. If you took the under on that, you came out very well.
Yeah, you did solid, man. But yeah, I think with its lackluster first half, it kind of got St. Louis, revamping their strategy, and then just kind of came out in the second half. I mean, it looked like a completely different team. I was so impressed.
And St. Louis quarterback play, it was real dink and dunk, I think.
Sure.
20 completions for 209 yards, 20 out of 27, which if you look at those numbers, that's pretty good. But considering that 41 of those yards came on one play.
Yeah. No, yeah.
I mean, they'll have some offensive kinks to work out, and perhaps that was just, supposedly that the weather was kind of gross down in Dallas.
Right.
Kinda. Like, by Dallas standards, it wasn't very warm.
Dallas fans, they're used to the 70 degrees and warm and sunny all.
And in a dome, and that's
like, outside. We're playing football outside. This is stupid.
What do I look like? Some sort of Eagles fan? So it was just like, I just think like they dinked and dunked their way to victory, and then once Dallas needed a touchdown at the end, they didn't have the offense to do it. I mean,
right.
You look at their running back Dunbar, 5 carries, 27 yards, 20 of which came on a single play.
Right.
Not good.
Not good at all.
Walter, their secondary running back, was two attempts for 13 yards, and 13 of them came on one play.
Yeah.
And then Nelson, 33 of 42. You would think that would be pretty good. Wrong. 209 yards. Again, dinking and dunking. And he had no touchdowns. He had a pick. Yeah, he had a 21-yard completion.
This is the perfect example of the XFL trying to do everything to make the offense more prominent, more dynamic, and it was.
And then God spitting in their face.
Yeah. They pulled their pants down and shit all over them.
It was so bad.
It was funny just texting back and forth, going, "What the fuck am I watching?" Right now? Because it was honestly the XFL, I think, worst nightmare. If this was the first game, if this was the Saturday afternoon first game, this would be a very different tone.
Yeah, they'd be like, "Oh wow, this is really bad football. Oh my lord!" It would be like kind of like what the AAF was going through.
It's exactly it. So in Dallas, I think we talked about time. Obviously, like Nagel was out there. He had like 12 long yards.
I will say I do appreciate them having Pat McAfee in the broadcast booth.
You like
My guy.
That?
Oh, he's so great. He's so funny.
So, and Dallas was kind of whatever, but I think the big thing to take out of this, if I could kind of summarize this entire weekend of XFL football, was I think it was better than I could ever have anticipated from an attendance standpoint, from a actual crowd cheering, motivating teams, actual energy right there. I think it was better than I could have anticipated. Now, having said that, if you are an NFL fan and you watch this right here, you're going to have very different expectations. I saw it basically in every game. Receivers that were very kind of maybe lackluster, big plays that you would usually see in the NFL kind of went away. Explosive running backs. I didn't see a ton of explosive running backs. There was maybe one or two that I saw in a couple good plays.
I mean, there were some decent names out there, though. I mean, I'm pretty sure next week Dallas is probably going to go with Landry Jones.
So kudos to the XFL getting the right sponsors and the right networks to support them.
Yeah, they took the time to do it right.
This could have been so dead so quick, and I think they really took their time with aligning themselves with the right people and getting a good schedule and, adapting some rules that's getting people interested.
Yeah.
And, I mean, who knows what the NFL might take up some of these rulings that they have.
I think the ultimate goal is probably to be a minor league to the NFL.
And I think it'd be awesome. I think it'd be a great move.
I mean, who knows if, eventually we wind up with a 32-team, XFL
God.
one day.
Oh, my God. Don't tease me with that.
But does Cleveland really need 2 teams to be sad about?
I do.
Oh
my.
So, with that said, we'll close this out with a way too early playoff predictions. Do you?
It's so early. I got to give it up to my Battlehawks right there. They had brief moments of shine. They got a lot to kind of improve upon, but it showed me between the first half and the second half they can adapt to the situation and kind of go out. And then, I mean, having said that, I mean, it could be DC defenders. I thought they were great. I mean, Houston was obviously great.
Yeah, I think there's going to be.
I think all the winners really showed that they can win. But again,
Yeah.
I have no idea. This could be completely different. I mean, without taking too much time, Tampa Bay, if they didn't have a couple bad penalties go their way and a couple like drop passes, I mean, this could have been a much closer game. So
yeah, the Eastern Conference really shined. So St. Louis and DC and New York all really shined today. My too early prediction, I say honestly, I think DC is the most complete team
I would agree with that
I've seen so far through 1 week of play. So take that for what you will. Defensively, though, St. Louis and New York are going to be battling it out for that second Eastern Conference spot.
Yeah, I think
and
so too.
I mean, if you go by what you saw today, it's going to be hard for me to say no to the Guardians. Out of the Western Conference, there's about a snowball's chance in hell that Dallas gets in, I think.
not a very good start. They didn't excite everyone with their expectations.
No, and with Bob Stoops coaching, it's like, come on, do better.
Oh my God, yeah.
So who really shined out of the West was Houston. I think Houston is going to be the team you're going to want to watch out of the West. So I think they'll more than likely take the number one spot. You know, like I said, through 1 week of play. Seattle and Los Angeles are going to be battling it out for that last spot. But I think from the offensive standpoint, I think Seattle might actually sneak in. But
interesting. A little bias right there? I don't know.
Possibly, but I just really wasn't impressed with Los Angeles.
Yeah.
You know, at least at the very least, Seattle hung into the game.
Right.
But again, we're talking 1 week of play, so like I said, it's the way too early prediction.
To kind of what we're saying, so like next week, we've got New York Guardians, DC Defenders going there. So that's two of our, you know, arguably our bigger teams right there.
Going toe to toe.
I think that's gonna be great. And then right after that, Tampa Bay and Seattle. That's going to be another kind of really interesting one, both with, I think, some hidden potential that can maybe make some big plays. We'll kind of see who comes out on top. Dallas and LA on Sunday. Yeah, you can wait.
Let
on
the
that
shit
one.
show commence, but I think LA takes that.
I would think so too. I just from purely what we've seen, and then and then Sunday in the late afternoon, St. Louis and Houston. That could be another interesting one. Houston, I think it's going to be a similar story that I saw last week with St. Louis. I think Houston's going to kind of start to come out top in the first half, and then St. Louis kind of bring it back in the second half. They seem to have the right coordinators to kind of adapt to any situation. So I'm intrigued to see what's going to happen right there. But who knows? We could be all wrong and everything. And LA Wildcats could be the best fucking team ever.
So we'll see about that. But for Week 1 XFL Breakdown, I'm Corey. Chris has been my wonderful co-host on here.
Hey, thank you so much, man.
And we will see you next week. Go Dragons, and for Chris, go Battlehawks.
Clear to engage.